Hello, hi everyone. This is Jonathan Haberkorn here, Accelerators Organization Mentor, AO Squared member, and I'm happy to be here today to help answer some of the questions that have been coming in by everyone in the AO group here. So a little bit about myself for those that haven't met me yet. My name is Jonathan Haberkorn. I am based out of Naples, Florida, and so I've been part of Accelerators organization for pretty much since the inception. It's been incredible to see the growth of how AO has come together over the years and what it's doing to help people really achieve the mission of AO, and that is to help support you on your journey to get to seven figures and do that as fast as possible. That's hence the accelerator part of this. So I am happy to give back. It's my honor to be a part of this organization and continue to give back to the group that actually helped me get there. So as part of being an AO Squared member, my goal is to help you also achieve this as well, just as the mentors have helped me. So super excited to be here. A little bit about my business. I have a company doing HR software implementations. So we specialize in systems integrations, how automation piece works with software, people operating models, all the processes behind all of that. So simply put, systems, processes, and people operating models. And we're doing that at quite a large scale, mostly with Fortune 500 organizations, but the same principles apply also to your business too, okay? So I'm happy to bring some context of my experience and really help accelerate you in your next steps of your company. So with that, I want to give a special shout out to both Kelly and Demarius because they've submitted questions and I see them continuing to actively be participants in AO, and I see the trajectory that they're on. And so I would encourage everyone to continue to submit questions and to be a part of AO and go to the events where you get tremendous amount of value and help shape your knowledge around what it takes to be a successful business owner. And so big shout out to Kelly and to Demarius for submitting these questions. All right, let's start with the first one. From Kelly, what podcasts would you recommend listening to for a service-based business? Okay, so in my experience, I am constantly looking at ways to increase my knowledge. And I see in here you also wrote about lately I've been listening to podcasts while I drive, and while on my downtime, instead of you want to listen to podcasts instead of music. So I have a core belief that input equals output. So if you look at that, you could say high quality input equates to high quality output. Another way you could think about it, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? So I think it's reasonable to think that if you give some high quality input, the likelihood of a high quality output is possible. Okay, so I'm glad you're really thinking about that. It sounds like you're evaluating your time, how you're spending your time throughout the day, and instead of listening to music, you could be putting in some high quality input, which could be podcasts, audiobooks, etc. So that being said, a little bit about my regiment of input. So always continuing to sharpen the saw here. I just really want to focus in on and remove things that are not really serving me. So I do that through audiobooks. I have been a pretty avid studier of Dr. David R. Hawkins. He wrote the book Power versus Force. It's an incredible book. I've been going through that multiple times over because the way that he describes the world and how things happen. The title of it also on there is The Hidden Determinants of Human Behavior. we think about business and we think about our actions and the things that are going on in the world, what drives that? And so I'm super curious of understanding that. Maybe it's part of understanding why we're all here in our existence, but as equally so, it applies for business. Business, there's a purpose for your business. There's a purpose for why you're doing that. And so I've been studying Dr. David R. Hawkins' Power versus Force, and they do have the audio book. He also has many other DVDs as well as audiobooks that are available. All of them super powerful, and so that's one of the, and I say pretty regularly I'm going through those, and I've been doing it for years. So that's one. Also, from a business perspective, $100 million offers, $100 million sales, that is something I'm going through right now with from Alex Hormozi. So these are some awesome audiobooks. There are tons of them that are out there. Blue Ocean Strategy is one I heard of recently. But I think one thing that you could do is go, and as you're coming up with different things that you feel you need to learn, what I typically do is I go in, I start searching around, or I ask on a question like this to people that are around me in my forum groups and see if there's any books that people could recommend, or I'll just search directly in Audible. The other thing that I'm doing is, so while I'm driving around, I too also either an audiobook or I have a Spotify account, and I'll use that to go to the podcast. And there are 3, I just kind of flipped through them before this session, and 3 that are on my list currently are Alex Hormozi, The Game, and so he puts all these bite-sized chunks of very valuable information. He has a great way of being able to just make a very concise set of information actionable, and that's really one of his missions, and I found that his content is super helpful to me, especially as I continue to grow the business. He really thinks in methodologies, frameworks, the how of how to get to the actionable things that you could do to achieve results. So check him out, Alex Hormozi. Andrew Huberman, has a very scientific approach. He covers so many different topics. It's not just around business, but his approach to being able to find out the best way to achieve things. Like more recently, I've been thinking about it from a health perspective. He has a great series of podcasts around health, and so he has a lot of data points that he brings to the table, which I find very helpful. It's very well thought through. And the last one is Jocko Willink's podcast, and I got turned on to him from Joel Gandara. And what I really like about him is discipline equals freedom, and I have really seen this play out in my life, especially in the last several years, where I didn't really understand what that meant originally until I started getting into more of his work. And it's that regimented discipline of doing the things that are necessary that equate to your ultimate freedom of being able to have the life that you want, for example. And he goes into a lot of other meanings of that as well, but from a business context, that's what I took out of it. So I would check him out. He has a lot of great content about how he goes about business, not just from the perspective of he takes his leadership skills that he learned within being part of a SEAL team and applies that onto business. And so you could think about some of the more difficult situations that one person has ever been in. I could say he's probably up there dealing, he had to deal with some amazing things in his life. And so taking those lessons learned and putting that into business, I think he's done an incredible job of that. So check that out. I'd say keep chipping away at all areas of your life. keep doing that inventory. What I really liked about this is you said, instead of music, I want this. And so I would highly encourage you to keep doing that. Keep finding these areas of your life that you can have those improvements, and those small things over longer periods of time really lead to drastic results. So that's awesome. Keep that up. And one of the things that I would just leave you on this is that as you continue to grow and as you continue to amass this knowledge will translate to behaviors and actions and things that will unfold for you. The lesson that I learned along the way with that is, how do you now become a steward of those assets? Okay, as you start amassing more knowledge and more wealth and more things, that means that you need to continue to be a steward of those things. Otherwise, you'll keep getting knocked down over and over and over again until the lesson is learned. So the lesson that I learned as I continued to grow was that it's super important that with that knowledge and with that growth, there's more responsibility that's there. And so continue to honor that, continue to be aware of that, and be a steward of that, okay? And when I say assets, it's not just from the perspective of money, but also your business, your mind, your body, and all of those things together. That is what I mean by be a steward of those assets. Continue to sharpen the mind, as you've indicated here that you want to do. Continue to focus on the body. Continue to focus on the business. All of these things need to work together. Okay? All right, Kelly. Awesome. Good question. Next one is from Demarius. And this is a multi-part question here, so I'm going to go through them one by one. What relationships and where should I network in order to grow a mold inspection business? Okay, if I had to reframe this a little bit, I think it's really about, and if we get into the purpose of Accelerators Organization, how do we accelerate our business development, right? So what relationships and where should I network in order to grow a mold inspection business? I'd like to give this concept, there are one-to-one type of interactions, and then there's one-to-many type of interactions. And I would highly recommend that you focus on the one-to-many, okay? So, for example, if you're going to be doing some kind of networking or you're really trying to do business development, how can you maximize the value of your time such that if you're doing a one-to-one, for every one person you're seeing, you're having that connection, which can be good. There is a place, and that should also happen. But to maximize your time and to accelerate, you really want to focus on a one-to-many type of relations, interactions, okay? So how can you do that? I would be thinking about, okay, for example, where can I get the data? Where can I get the data that I can have a one-to-many type of interaction? So, for example, homeowners associations, if you could focus on that versus like a single homeowner. Obviously, the single homeowner, you got to go one-to-one, whereas if you go to a homeowners association, you'd be able to focus on this one interaction, which can lead to many thereafter, right? Also, condo associations is another big one. Where can I get this type of data so I can have that type of interaction? That would be the other part I would be thinking about. So where I know, because we live in the same city, you can definitely check on the Collier County Gov website, where there is a formal listing. And I imagine most of the other cities around town, or around the United States, also have this publicly listed registration for homeowners associations or condo associations. So I would look for that data, and I would use that list as the foundation, and I would start working through them. I would take a first smaller set, maybe 10 or so, and start trying that interaction, really understanding what is it that what are their major problems and how you can really help solve those problems, and then hear the feedback from them. So then from that first 10, you'll get that feedback, go to the next 10, get feedback, and then start hitting them at hundreds at a time, right? And there are different mechanisms of being able to do that. And I think that really leads you into the next question I see. What are some different ways that I should go about marketing and getting new business? Okay, so focusing on that one-to-many, I would really be thinking about mailing lists. That's going to be huge. Being able to have that mailing list, either the emails, or if you have to do the address and actually mailing people. But ideally, you want to keep your costs down as much as possible. So a newsletter type of approach can be very good. You create a newsletter, and every so often you're sending that out to many people, like let's say you get the full list of homeowners associations, condos associations, right? Let's say there's 10,000 associations or more, 20,000, something like that. One email to all of them, that is a highly efficient use of the time. Your conversion rate on that, you may only have like a maybe 2% conversion rate, and that would be pretty common from a conversion rate perspective. But you were able to do a one-time thing to be able to do that now, or to reach many different organizations. Now, if you keep doing that on a repetitive perspective or ongoing perspective, then now you're building up trust, you're building up your brand, especially if you're delivering them value in those newsletters. I would highly recommend doing that, and they continue to see you and you're existing. It's not like that. The world we live in, there's so many competing priorities. Just look at the amount of notifications on your phone that most people have on their phone, right? You're essentially competing with that. So you want to be able to build a regular cadence there, high value content. Okay, ideally, if you can do it in a way where you can have that content automated as well, that would be very, very helpful. So for example, mold inspections, this could be highly correlated to the real estate industry, and so certain real estate information that you can pull, again, where's the data? If you can pull some national or like local stats that you can easily just pull into this email, that will be able to generate your content on a regular basis, and it's useful to the people that you're going to be sending it to. So if you can create high value content and be able to set up some degree of automation with that, that's going to be a very more relevant than just an email that doesn't have as good or high content or perceived value by those people. So know their problem, know how you can help solve that problem, or if it's information that is helpful because you're an adjacent product to them, you can also be able to pitch your services that way, even though the content may not be a direct correlation with you. So all that to say, a newsletter will be very helpful. You can continue to build up the social platforms as well, so people are seeing you on a regular basis, and that's also an awesome one-to-many approach. Personalization is also very helpful. Okay, so people want to be recognized, and even though you can do this in a one-to-many way, it can still feel very personalized. There may be some VIPs or very specific smaller target audience you want to do that one-to-one with, because that could be a very key relationships that you want to continue to build, and that added extra effort and that personalization and relationship building can be very helpful. So I would go with a mix of both, but to accelerate, you can't just stick with a one-to-one. You have to be able to also build out this kind of one-to-many approach where you can send out the newsletters, send out, people can see you on an ongoing basis, and they'll be able to know that you're existing, and when the time comes, they will reach out to you. Okay? All right, next one, additional question that's there. How do I know how much money to put into advertising and marketing without overspending and going into debt to do so? Okay, very good question. There's just always this careful balance. I want to spend money, but I need to know that I'm appropriately spending it such that there will be a return on this. Okay, so how can you do that? First of all, what I do is I put together a sales projection for the year. Right? So this is what I can anticipate based upon my projections of the year, and so month by month I have assets coming in, or money coming into the business, and then also paired with that I have my budget, and so my budget is anticipated, and I'm always moving like a plan versus actual on this. So every month I'm looking at this backwards to say, okay, in this month this is what I projected, and then this is what actually came in, this is what I projected in my budget, this is where it actually came in, right? And if you start tracking that enough over time, you'll really get good at the cadence of that. In terms of how much, because if you're going to do a projection out into the into the future, like let's say next month I anticipate X amount of sales to come in, and as a result of that, I can afford to put X amount towards my spend. I know in the beginning, as a company's trying to build their brand and build awareness, it may not be that easy to project. There is another way in which you can do this, and that's called ROAS, so return on ad spend. Essentially understanding what is your cost of acquisition per customer, and then the lifetime value of that customer. So these are 3 different metrics you'll want to look at: ROAS, return on ad spend, customer acquisition cost, and lifetime value of the customer. Now, how I would go about that is, if I was in your shoes, I would put aside some initial budget, put together a campaign for a certain advertising campaign, and make sure that I'm being very niched in who I'm targeting. Okay, so knowing your exact target market, so you're not unnecessarily spending. So for example, your target market locally here in Naples, Florida, you wouldn't want to be advertising outside of here. They're not your customer, right? So that's one filter there. Then you can start looking at sub-filters of that to really target the audience, and then begin doing some advertising and seeing how that works. Based on my experience, this is a bit of a lengthy process to get right, because it's not just your target audience, but you also do need to know is your messaging reaching the target market appropriately. Okay, so you may have to calibrate that messaging. There are A/B tests that can be done, or you can run multiple campaigns all at the same time and just set your maximum budget per day, and then see over time, over several months, you'll be able to see, okay, this is what this led to. It will be really important to track each one of those campaigns and which ones actually brought in dollars, okay? And then over time, you'll remove some of them and really double down on the ones that are working well, okay? But it's going to be really important that you track those numbers very meticulously. You do not want to overspend on your advertising and then you're upside down because you don't have the revenue coming in for it, okay? All right, next question that you have here. I have a list of realtors that I can text. Great, so some friends. How should I approach them to let them know about my new business without trying to sell them something? So I think of sales as it's always about value giving. they will naturally reciprocate based on the value that you continue to bring to them. It's just the natural law of how people want to interact with each other. That also helps me feel that I'm not being needy. I'm not approaching them needing something out of them. I'm giving them value, right? So you got to think about what is it that their problems are, okay? Think from their lens. They have these problems. You're approaching them. You also have this new business that can help solve some or all of those problems, right? So if you can help them in solving their problems, then it really doesn't come across as needy. It comes across as value giving. And so I would highly recommend thinking about what is it, the core problems that they have, and then approach them with that and say, hey, I know you got this problem. By the way, here's a contact for X, Y, and Z. Also, I'm starting a new business, or my business has started. It's growing. We're doing awesome. This could also help you. So then it doesn't come across as needy or you're just trying to sell them on something. I think it's just shifting your perception around that. You're helping them solve their problems. And if you do that, they'll perceive it that way. Okay? All right, next one that you have here, great series of questions, by the way. What is the ratio percentage of revenue to net profit for each business that I should be aiming for? Okay, I don't know what you mean exactly for each business. I could say this, that each business can be different. So depending on your different industries, the net profit percentage would be very different. So for example, like e-commerce or retail has a very different average than a service-based business. So for mold inspection, one of the things that you could do, I would say just doing some general research, I have seen service-based businesses somewhere around 20% or more. Another way that I try to look at this, I always think about how can I increase my sales value, right? How can I increase this such that the value of what I'm selling, even if it's higher than everybody else around, it's still perceived better, and we're delivering at a better product for them. So I would find ways that you can build that into your marketing and be that as a business, so you're actually delivering on that. Okay, and there's a couple different ways to do that. Increasing the value of your services, which is the trust of the brand. How urgent is solving some type of problem very quickly, the urgency of that. The value of what you're doing, that's really what you're talking about here. How can I increase the value of what's the service that I'm providing, as well as a good understanding of the market demand, as well as the supply of the vendors that are around. What's your competition look like? What's the demand for all of this? And then additionally to that, your value proposition and how you're differentiating from your vendors and in the marketplace. And so if you can really build that into your marketing, that's going to be very helpful, and being able to differentiate yourself and actually price more. I went through a request for proposal recently in my business where we did come way over by double in our cost compared to the others that came in that we were bidding against. And even though we were over double what the other bids, we were perceived and are more. They told us that we are more believable because the way we laid out our plan and the things, like there was a lot of trust that they could see that this was well thought out. Okay, so we understood their problem better than everybody else, and we knew what it was actually going to take to solve that problem. And although we came in way over, the value of that is actually higher. And so I guess that's the key point in this, that if you can solve those problems better than everybody else and really differentiate yourself, you can actually increase the costs, okay? So the question was, what ratio or percentage of revenue of net profit? So I would be targeting 20% or more if you can. Another way to look at this is think about what is the average stock market average in a year. Over time, it's been 8 to 12%, somewhere in there. I think over the long term, it's been closer to 8. And so if you're making 20%, even if you brought it down, comparatively speaking, to the stock market above 8, and you're beating the stock market basically. So think about it from that perspective. Now, obviously you want to have, be able to charge a fair price for what the problems that you're solving and for your business, for your customers. But I would continue to find ways to increase that, to really be able to provide value better than everybody else, and you can really get that percentage up more. Okay? All right. The next question we have is from Marco Antonio. Okay, what system did you use or still use to manage your time and stay focused as it relates to getting things done and time management? Okay, and Sanfilino is a full travel concierge service company. We focus in Cartagena, Colombia, and provide travelers all over the world with a prime bespoke experience in the country, meeting the highest standards of service. I am tired of winging it as it relates to getting things done. I want to be more focused and strategic. Can you suggest ideas as to how I can do this based on your experience? Thanks so much. Okay, so what systems do you use or still use to manage your time and stay focused and to get things done? All right. I think through the different types of workload methodologies there are. So there are different types. You can do some Google searching around on this, and I'll give you a very basic overview here now. You have your classic waterfall approach, where you understand you have, these are very much like project-based things, where, let's say in your business, you're trying to, grow it in a certain way, and you've got a certain set of requirements, and you know those all up front. And so you can follow the classic waterfall approach, where you take in those requirements, what is your desire, what are you trying to achieve, and then go through a design, build, validate, and then deploy approach. All right, and so that is a very commonly used business methodology for achieving activities on the business. The other one is an agile methodology. That there are many variants of that, so don't go too far into the rabbit hole with that one. But the general principle is that you don't always know the exact series of things that are going to be coming next, but you know the most important ones right now. And so oftentimes in business, we jump onto the next highest priority of things, and that's really what this methodology is about. It's very circular, such that you take in the work activities that need to get done. You then go through a design, build, test, and then come back, do a feedback on that, and then for the next round, you can build on top of that and be able to carry that forward. So again, this is a very similar thing, where this is for on the business activities. So you're trying to do new things in the business. I need to start a new marketing program. I need to install some new systems or update processes. So this is a way that you can work through that methodology, okay, or work through that and be able to manage those activities. And then there's kind of hybrid methods of that. But so really what we're talking about here is the on the business activities and ways that you can track those, see them to completion, I'll tell you what I do in my business, okay, for on the business. Then next I want to jump to in the business. How do I, there's the day-to-day interactions with the customers and stuff like that. That could have a different approach. Okay, but on the business, to continue to grow it, what I have done, I have a weekly cadence that I follow every week. So it starts with on Sunday. Personally, myself, I like to spend my Sunday evening time around 5 p.m. I'm thinking about the priorities of the week, and that's just me, not my whole team. I'm just thinking about that because on Monday, I do have a team meeting scheduled that we go over the priorities of the week. So I want to come prepared to that meeting to be the leader and to share that information with the team. And so we have it broken down by each of the areas of business. And then basically for the week, what we're targeting to do. Then we have another meeting, which is on Thursday. And we call that our core leadership team meeting. And that is also broken down by each of the lines of business that we have, or areas of our business. And we do a check-in, basically. So on Monday, we said, this is the priorities of the week. On Thursday, we're checking in. And everybody responsible for their area has to give a readout on the progress of it that week. Okay. Very specifically focusing on, risks, obstacles, things that are not going to plan. And helping, remove some of those roadblocks for them so they can continue to hit the goals that they need to for the week. And we like doing that on Thursday because that still gives you, and we do it Thursday morning, it still gives you the rest of Thursday and all of Friday to get those activities done. We have been doing this type of approach with all of our projects, and we see this to be very helpful. In addition to that, while I'm not involved in all of these, but we do have a daily huddles. So as needed, as people, we need cross-team communication and activities to get done. We have those daily huddles. They're meant to be very short, 15 minutes. Sometimes we don't have them because the teams don't need to do them, but when there's we've created the space in the calendar such that people will have the ability to come together on any one of the days and talk about their key interdependencies. So the left needs to talk to the right, and so they can coordinate. So we call those the daily huddles. And then in terms of the tools aspect of it, we are currently utilizing all the Microsoft products, and so that includes Microsoft to do the Planner project. There are lots of other tools that are out there, but we are utilizing Microsoft because there's a lot of tight-knit integration across the product tools that we find to be useful. There are many others. For example, Monday.com. There's a tool, AI tool called Motion. You'll have to kind of think through what will be useful for you and your team. If you don't have any tools yet, I wouldn't necessarily start with buying a tool that may not be your right next move. And I always think through the lens of what can you do free? What can you do to just build those habits and the things? And then having a tool later only makes that better. So for example, you start with a very simple pen and paper. That's all you need to build the habits and patterns. A simple to-do list, right? Instead of having all these tools, if you start with that, set up your weekly cadence, you have that kind of accountability of everybody showing up to those meetings and everybody doing a readout. If you can get that part down, you've established this ongoing cadence, and then having these other tools will be very helpful after, right? So it's no good if you have the tools and people aren't showing up. So I would start with first the free option, set up the meetings. That's not going to take, you just need to communicate that. When are these meetings and what the expectations are during those meetings. And then a simple pen and pad and run through the list of activities that need to get done. Okay. If you get that cadence down, or when you get it down, then I would start looking at tools also free tools to start, and then you can get into more advanced tools like a project, Microsoft Project, and other things where it'll cost you some money, but those can be extremely helpful. Okay, so I would say here on the business activities, accountability to drive those new behaviors, and that is what's going to get you to really get the things done. Delegating to the team, making sure that they're getting those things done, you being responsible yourself, and if you need an accountability partner so you can run the business more effectively, then find somebody that would be able to do that for you. I find that just by having those meetings on the calendar, it already makes people accountable. So think about that. Then in terms of in the business, so we just talked about on the business, classic waterfall approach, agile, the meeting cadence and tools. But in the business, so the day-to-day activities with your customers, that might follow a different workload methodology, okay? For us, I calendar everything. So if there's some kind of activity that needs to get done, that means there's some time that is going to be required to do that. If it's with the customers, having a time on the calendar, I use Outlook. You can use Google or any of the major platforms have the calendar function. I would get very used to how to use that, and then using that as part of my daily routine. Okay, think about your like every day. Like for example, what I do is every day I'm looking at my to-do list, I'm looking at my calendar, and I know I have all these things scheduled, and these are actions and things that need to get done. And because I've spent time on, Sunday night as well as Monday, all of those meetings are on the calendar to get those things done. And the interactions with my customers are all scheduled. And even personal life things that I need because you got to balance your work life. I would also have just one single calendar that also has your personal things that you need to get done there too. So when you look at your calendar, you have one objective view of all the things that need to get done, okay? So that's what we're using. I find that to be very effective. All right, hopefully that was helpful to you. If you have any other questions about those methodologies, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to have some discussions with you. All right, we've got another question from Kelly. All right, how crucial is it to level up your wardrobe to match as we level up? Okay, I'm the owner of a licensed excavation company, California. Yep, and I'm really working hard to leveling up my mindset, my inner circle, and everything that I do. Currently, my wardrobe is denim jeans and grunt-style shirts, mostly. I feel like I have outgrown my current wardrobe. I'm a 38-year-old male who is looking deep at who I am and want to become. How important is it to look the part as we continue to level up? I feel the need to have a business casual look, like denim with a sports coat, nice boots, versus the labor construction worker look. Kelly, I see this as similar to the question that you were asking before. You're really evaluating all the areas of your life, man. That is awesome. That is part of the transformation and journey as you continue to grow. So let me share my experience with this. I like to think about it in terms of my audience. Okay, and I could say over the past decade or more, as I've been traveling around to all my different customers, one of the things I look at is what is their culture? Like, what's the culture of the area as well as the company culture? And so before I would travel to my client locations, I would understand who am I going to be interacting with. Is it a C-suite executive? Is it more frontline workers? Is it mid-level? So I would get to understand that because I want to make sure I'm dressing appropriately. Like, for example, meeting with executives in certain types of companies, some of them wear ties, some of them do not. Some of them are wearing sports coats, formal dress wear versus, or business casual dress wear versus, a more casual, laid back type of dress wear. And so when I think about it also from the perspective of your business, if you're going to a construction site, I don't think you're going to be showing up in a suit and tie. I don't know the type of message that would send to the people that are working there. So at that time, like a construction site, I would dress to the part of where I'm going, basically. And so it's not just that having, I would have different types of wardrobes based upon these different types of interactions that I'm going to have. So I think knowing that would be helpful. I've had experience where even in the same company, I would travel to New York, we were wearing suit and tie. I would travel to California, we were laid back, we were wearing t-shirts and jeans. It was a collared t-shirt and jeans. And so what I have done over the years is basically build my wardrobe out to fit multiple different occasions. And I would really think about who am I going to interact with. I find myself, even throughout the week, as I work with, I go to different meetings, even though they're remote. If I'm meeting with executives, I still put on my suit, I still put it on just because I want to make sure they know that we're having an executive to executive discussion, okay? But if I'm meeting with like my team, for example, in our just like a daily huddle or just some planning, I'm just usually wearing something a little bit more relaxed. And so I think it's important that you're looking at this. I would definitely dress the part. Think about it also from this perspective. How do I say it, like a sports team, for example. When you go on the sports field, like let's say football field, you have a certain dress, or if you're playing soccer, you got a certain jersey, that you're wearing. So there's a set in the context of that. In the context of that setting is what you should be wearing, okay? And then, the perception around what that means and who you're interacting with. You should just keep that in mind. One final thing I would say in my experience, and this is what was told to me from one of my clients when I asked them, hey, what should I wear? I was going to go to a particular location. It was not a corporate setting, and so I wanted to be clear, like I wanted to make sure that I'm dressed appropriately for that setting. And I asked them about it, and they said, hey, make sure you don't go in your corporate dress wear, because the company culture might feel like you're coming from the ivory tower to come talk to them, to a frontline worker group who they don't wear that, and it's just not in their culture of the company culture for them to have to wear that type of dress wear. So I would recommend that really understand the perception. That was what I picked up on it, is the whole ivory tower comment, like we're coming over there to tell them what to do, versus being a partner with them, like really getting to be on the same level of them. And that meant that I needed to dress a certain way, which was more dressed down, so it wouldn't be perceived in this kind of power dynamic difference, okay? So take that, hopefully that's going to be helpful to you, but hopefully you can take that information and build out your wardrobe to suit what you need there. Okay, last question we have is about the company culture, also from Kelly. A lot of good questions coming from Kelly. I appreciate that. Getting involved, and that's why I see you continuing to grow. How do we create a great company culture? Kelco Construction is an excavation company. Yep. One of our goals is to create an awesome culture for employees and clients. We really want to take the best care of Kelco family. I love it. That's good. Leading with the heart there. We don't know how to create the culture. Okay? We don't know the steps and what process works to create an awesome culture. We believe that by creating an awesome culture, we will really start to see some amazing growth. Thank you for taking time to answer the question. Yeah. Okay. Culture. What you're talking about is creating an experience. And the way that you do that is through what I've learned is the mission, the vision, and the core values. Okay, this is kind of the root, the foundation of it, and getting very clear about what that is, because once you establish that, then all the periphery things tie to that. That gives you the lens in which the business is operating, right? So, you know, if you're clear on what your mission is and what your vision is, and it's inspiring to people, and people can buy into that, and those core values that really help people understand the shape of how you want to operate. I can tell you want to lead with the heart here just by this question. You want to create a great company culture, and you believe that you'll really see something amazing by doing this. And you want to take care of the Kelco family. So I'm already seeing a core value of care in there, right? And so understanding, getting that very clearly defined is going to be very helpful for you, because the surrounding pieces will all fit into that. Okay, think about it from every touch point that you have should help represent this, whether it's your marketing out to your customers, or you have your current customers are interacting with you through whatever platforms. You've got your branding there. They're able to see the values. They're able to understand why the company's relationship exists, and it continues to foster in a positive way. Or if you're looking at it from like a company employment branding perspective, you want to attract more people to your company. They got to be able to see, why do I want to work for Kelco? Okay, well, here's what our mission is. Here's what our vision is. This is what we're doing. We're doing awesome things over here. Here's our core values, why we exist, why companies keep coming back to us, and why we keep winning business. And this is the direction that we're going. It really helps also to become a great leader. So as you're continuing, because just by merely asking this question, I could tell you're working to being a great leader. You're going to need to communicate the mission, vision, core values out to your employees to keep them going in the right path. It's like, the pathway is never really straight. There's always things that are going on, but you got to keep these guard lines around so everybody keeps roughly going in the same direction. Otherwise, you got some people going left, some people going right. They think this is what is most important, but it's not, because these other things really are, but it just really wasn't communicated well. And so that's where, being from a great leader perspective, continuing to have ongoing discussions about what the mission, vision, core values are, and the company goals and the objectives, that is really going to help with the employment branding, the steering the company, and really getting people to become that and represent it. So when they're interacting with the customers, your customers, they're representing that in the right way. Okay? So the next series of steps that I would do, if you don't have it yet, I would have the mission, vision, core values. Spend some time really thinking about that. There is branding exercises that can be done. It costs all different types of, there's varying degrees of cost of that. I would say in the early beginning, I would try to do what I can by myself first, and then but not spending like an overly amount of time that is preventing you from working on other things. But come up with that mission, vision, core values. If you have a hard time doing that, I did, for example, I needed somebody to guide me. So I went through a formal branding exercise, and I needed to update my website. I knew that had to get done. I went through like strategic positioning of my company, looking at all the other competition and what their positioning is and how they're positioning versus my positioning. I mean, it can get pretty deep there. And how that all, like the amount of work that you can go through that. All of it will be useful. To what degree do you need to do all of that now versus maybe some, like, graduate up over time for more of this. But at minimum, I would spend time on your mission, your vision, your core values, and the clarity of those company goals. And then I would also set up maybe quarterly a time frame where you can do an all hands and everybody involved in the company. You can even, if you really felt comfortable with this, have like a, you can even invite your customers as well, because it's like, here's our quarterly update, this is what we're up to, what our mission, vision, core values, here's how we're best servicing our customers, here's what our customers are saying, and it's continuing to bring people together. And to me, that's what is creating a great company culture. It's about continuing to be a great leader and continuing to make sure that everyone understands why they're doing what they're doing. And that's what the mission, vision, and core values do. Okay? All right. So with that, that was the last question. I do want to just take one moment and say my condolences to Sean and his family. His recent father passed away. Brother, we really appreciate everything you've done for us as part of this Accelerators organization, and we feel your pain with you here as you're going through this. Know you have people to reach out to, and we're all thinking about you. Many prayers and well wishes to you during this time, and if you need anything, please feel free to reach out. Okay, many blessings. Appreciate this. In case there are any other questions that come in, feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to be here and help support the Accelerators organization as you continue to achieve your next level goals in your companies. Okay? All right, everyone. Take care.